Okay.
Okay, now go ahead.
I was born 1938. So when the airlift started, I was 10 years old. But I lived in the northern part of Germany, of Berlin. What happened? Ah, oh, I lived in Frohnau, in Bezirk Reinickendorf. You know, that's where the school was open, I think, in Wilmersdorf, right? Oh, what happens?
Oh, it's okay. Yeah, we
It's
had
okay.
some friends in Frohnau.
I'll first stop it, and I cannot let her go down the stairs because she has a broken paw. So I have to watch her. She has it in a bandage.
See you very well.
I can hardly hear you.
We see you very well.
Oh, good, good. But anyhow, in Frohnau, they have at the Polo Platz, they have a hotel called the Polo Hotel. And I stayed after I returned from America to Germany at that hotel, and they had all the equipment in there for the planes to come in and land at Tempelhof.
Those are good days. Hard days, but good.
I have a hard time hearing Dad.
Well, keep talking. Go ahead. Are you going to start off with a statement and telling about your family?
Okay, actually, I wrote a few things down.
Okay.
Now, let's see. Well, okay, let's see where. So, well, my father was drafted into war, and he was captured in the Normandy and brought to America as a POW in Alabama. And then in Oklahoma. And when he was released in 1947 into Berlin, it was in Russian, the Russians were there. And they grabbed all the German soldiers because they did not have release papers from the Americans and sent him off to Siberia. So my father fled on a train to northern Germany with a friend of his, and they came after him with bayonets, but he was able to escape to northern Germany.
My word.
Yeah. So of course the family was in Berlin in Frohnau, and my grandmother was bombed out in Glienicke. You have heard of the Glienicke Bridge, the exchange. Even the film that was made was Tom Hanks. You remember the exchange of the West and East?
Yeah.
Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyhow, so my father wanted the family out of Berlin because he knew we weren't safe in Berlin. So we moved in 1954 from Berlin to Lübeck, beautiful Hanseatic city, close to Hamburg at the Baltic Sea.
Yeah.
But anyhow, I have many, many bad memories of the time when the Russians came to via Henningsdorf into Frohnau, northern part of Berlin, with their tanks. They mowed all the trees down and situated 3 tanks on our property in Berlin and shot into downtown Berlin.
My
mother would take me upstairs in the house to see Berlin burning. It was awful. Well, and the women would not stay from the Russians. They were afraid of the Russians because many of them were raped. And I'll never forget the day where my mother and grandmother were locked in with a Russian. And she warned me if this would ever happen here. I was just a small child. Scream, scream, scream. And what the women used to do is use lids, pot lids and cymbals so that the commander would hear that someone was in trouble and would come and help.
My word.
Anyhow, so
how old were you, Barbara? How old were you?
Well, I was born in 38. So when the war came to an end, I was 45, and my baby brother was born in 44. And in 43, 44 were all the, a lot of bombing in Berlin. And that's when we fled into the Prignitz to a very good friend of my father's where my baby brother was born. And then we returned. Of course, the Russians took everything over. We could not even lock the house. There were terrible, terrible times.
Terrible.
But well, you know, and I remember as a child too, when the prisoners came, the German soldiers came back without arms and legs. It was awful to see as a child. But anyhow, the way we survived is we had a garden and we had fruit trees. So we always had something to eat, and mother would can a lot of fruit.
Well, good.
And we would go, we had farmers close by in that part of Berlin that we could go early in the morning and look for potatoes, what was left over on the fields. So we had something to eat. And of course we got also care packages, but since I lived in the northern part of Berlin, I never got to see one of those parachutes that you sent down to the German children with chewing gum and chocolates.
Thank you.
But we knew about the planes, right? But at the time, I didn't even know what it was all about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was good.
Yeah.
Still.
Yeah. So anyhow, I wrote something down with my glasses. So in World War II, Berlin was an island city in the Russian sector and occupied. I remember the day when the Russian tanks drove through gardens, moved the, well, I told you about the gardens, how they destroyed the property. Let's see, where did, I told you that, okay. Okay. So when the four-power agreement was guaranteed between the Allies, Berlin and the three Western Allied zones in Germany, including the use of the 320-mile wide corridor in early 1948, that's when the airlift started, right?
Right.
And right. Let's see, what have I written here? So we are so thankful that the Americans helped to rebuild our country. We were 2 million hungry Berliners. We were hungry. We didn't have much to eat, even though I lived in the northern part and we did have a garden, so I was very thankful for it. But you know, whatever we had, we traded also with families. So, but they didn't have, they would give us and vice versa. Let's see, do you have any questions? Well, you know.
What do you remember about the blockade time?
The black what?
The blockade.
Oh, the blockade.
Did you notice any difference after the war? There was the Russian occupation. There were people that were still hungry and starving and had no food.
Right. So
and then the blockade occurred in 48. And was that any different for you than it had been before? Well,
yes, because 48 was an extremely cold winter, and you flew in the coal so that we could heat our room. We lived in one room, my grandmother, my mother, and our 3 children, and we had a tiny little stove so we could stay warm. Well, of course, you flew in medicine too during that time. But you know, at 10 years old, my mother didn't want us to know really what was going on in the world. I learned all about this later on in life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations for
And of course, you know, we didn't have any clothing. We outgrew clothing. We didn't really have shoes. We had traded shoes with other people. I know, for example, a friend of mine, um, we went together to school. She couldn't even go to school because she didn't have any clothes, because she had to share clothes with her sister. So 1 week her sister went to school and 1 week she went to school because they just didn't have enough clothes.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
Terrible.
yeah. Let's see, what else can I tell you? Let's see. I wrote so many things down, and I just gave a speech on my 80th birthday, having all my friends, and I have a lot of Berlin friends who who went through the same thing. And when we talk about these terrible times, even though I have grandchildren, they don't really want to hear about it. But I was real surprised yesterday. My granddaughter came to me and she said, "Oma, I have to write an essay about a hero." So I was telling you about Colonel Gal Halverson. And she was so surprised. So that was the first time she heard about you. And she wrote an essay about you. So now I'm going to wait what her grade will be when it comes back. She also wrote an essay about my father, who escaped to the West. And then later on, we moved to northern Germany.
ah.
My word.
Yeah.
What a
But
history.
you know, nowadays when I see these children, even when I helped in school during lunch hour, how they throw their food away, bite into the apple ones, it hurts my feelings, because we didn't have food. And to this day, I cannot throw food away. It will end up in a soup or I freeze it.
Incredible.
But the children nowadays, and I see it with my grandchildren too, there's always food left on the plate and it's being thrown away. And I hope they never have to go through the hungry times that I've suffered through. We didn't even have milk for my baby brother, who was born in 44.
So I imagine those children and you just ate whatever your mother could find.
Whatever she could find, whatever was put on the plate. And if we children did not like it, it was put into the pantry, in the Speisekammer. And at the next meal, it was taken out. And if we were hungry, we ate it. We didn't get anything else to eat until we had eaten. That's why we learned to eat everything. We couldn't choose.
Mhm.
Incredible.
And my mother baked bread. And of course, then we got the powder milk through the airlift. And we put the powder milk on our home baked bread, and it was delicious.
Well, good. I'm glad you liked it.
You mean just in the powder form?
It was, well, powder form, and we would mix it with water, of course, and put it on home baked bread. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh.
yeah.
Wonderful.
So that's something that was different during the airlift. You had that kind of powdered milk.
Right,
Did
right.
you have other things as well? Did you get plenty of coal that you needed to stay warm?
Oh, definitely, definitely. Yeah, that's why we lived only in one room, the three
Yeah.
of us. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And of course, then, well, was it in right after the airlift? That's when the Germany got the D-Mark, right?
That's right.
I think 48. 48 is when we got the D-Mark. But still, we used to, before that, we used to go shopping in East Germany because we were right at the border.
Yeah.
We children could take a bicycle and ride over there and buy with each German marks. But later on, that was forbidden. And my mother always feared for us children because everything was cheaper in the East than it was on the Western side.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Huh.
Interesting time.
So how did you get the supplies from the airlift? Did you have to go to the downtown and wait in line to pick up the milk?
You know, that's a good question. And I cannot ask my parents because they're not alive. The only way I could get in touch with my 6-year older brother, he probably would know that from conversation, because I left to immigrate to America the year that the Berlin Wall went up on the 13th of August, 1961. I came to California and I have been here ever since, became an American citizen.
Can you tell more about that? Did your whole family come or only you?
Can I tell you more? What?
Did only you come or your whole family? Can you tell more about that?
Well, my family stayed in Germany. I was the only one who came to this country.
My word.
Yeah, it wasn't easy at first because of different customs. Um, the first 5 years, I could not admit to my parents that it was not the way I expected my life to be in America. It wasn't easy. Though I got a job, by the way, when I came. I arrived on Thanksgiving Day. And on the 2nd of January, I had a job at the bank working as a bookkeeper running an NCR machine. But we couldn't afford very much. And my husband at that time was still a student at the college, at the university.
So were you married when you
I
left?
was married to an American
Mhm.
intelligence officer. We had 60 officers stationed in Lübeck, which actually was an English sector. And I actually still belong to this organization called the Lübeck Association, and they have a reunion every 2 years. And there's about 10 of us ladies, girls, who married Americans. So
Right.
next, they wanted to have a reunion this year in Tampa, Florida, but because of the coronavirus, we couldn't meet. So they hope next May that we might be able to come together, but we're all getting older.
Yeah.
And many people don't want to travel that distance anymore.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you met your husband there, and then
And
when
we actually married in Lübeck.
oh,
Yeah.
Wonderful.
How did your parents feel about that? Were they?
Well, you know, my father did not come into my life until we moved 1954 to Lübeck. In 53 was on 17th of June was that terrible incident in Berlin, the Aufstand in Berlin. And that's when my father said, I want my family out of Berlin. It does not look safe. And that's when my mother had to plan an interzone move to Lübeck through the eastern part to Helmstedt Marienborn, which was not easy. And all history books and political books had to be sent by airmail. And it
Wow.
was a long process to let us even through the east to get to Lübeck.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why did you choose Lübeck?
Well, my father, when he fled Berlin after he was released by the Americans, after he came out as a prisoner of war into Berlin, and it was occupied by the Russians at that time, he did not feel safe and left on that train that I mentioned earlier. And they came after him with marionettes, and he ended up no man's land in northern Germany, near Bad Oldesloe. It's near farmland between Hamburg and Lübeck. And that's when he decided he's going to rebuild a home for the family, and that's when we moved in 54.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah, it was very difficult too because all my relatives were in East Germany.
oh,
My grandfather, my opa, my oma, my cousin, my aunt, and we could not go see them. We couldn't even go to the funeral. They were terrible times.
oh,
Yeah,
Terrible.
yeah.
oh, that's hard. Very hard.
So hard.
How did you get permission to leave Berlin to go through Helmstedt and go to
Well,
Lübeck?
my mother had to arrange that all because
Yeah.
we had a big moving van to move 2 households because my grandmother was bombed out, even though we had an incinerator bomb go in our house too and lift all the tile off the roof, and it caused a lot of damage, but at least we could still live in the house. But she was totally bombed out and came to live with us and moved with us to Lübeck too, because my mother was the only child. So I have really a small family.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Yeah. So Oma was always there for us children.
Well,
Oh.
Yeah.
so good.
So did you go
So
back?
I have two brothers, and the one brother I lost about 2 years ago. And I still have a younger brother who lives near Frankfurt, my
Oh,
brother Bernie. Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's all I have left over there.
oh.
That's too bad. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So you lived in California and you had children.
I joined lots of German clubs. Of course, while I was working, it was difficult. So 4 years after I was 4 years in this country, I decided to have a child. We didn't start right away with children because it cost money, right? And well, it's like a bird. You plan to build the nest first before you put the birds in it. That's the way we were raised in Germany.
Right.
And so I had to give up my job to raise my child. And then 3 years later came my other son. So I have two boys. Yeah, yeah. So I really never did go back to into banking. Since my husband was going to college, and he had the GI Bill at that time, I started my own daycare in my home. And then later on, after 30 years, I went into old people care. But I'm very active still in several German clubs, but right now we can't get together. I belong to 3 German choirs, and we have put on 2 performances per year now. We used to have a lot more performance before. And I belong to, as a Berliner, I was always teased, raised as a Prussian, belonging to a Bavarian Schuhplattler group, dancing for Oktoberfest. You know, the Schuhplattling where the guys clap the lederhosen and I wear the dirndl. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Where did you learn how to do those dances?
Well, I learned it all here through the group. It was, even in Berlin, I always said my mother sewed dirndls. My mother was a very good seamstress. So she sewed a dirndl for me, and I always loved the Bavarians. So I joined the group, and even though I'm still not an active, but an associate member of the club at 82, I don't do the dancing and performing anymore. But right now, we can't do anything. We're stuck home. And of course, now today is the first day that the air is cleaner and we can get out because of all the fires that surrounded us here in California.
What city are you in? What city do you
I'm
live
in Oakland, California.
Oh, you're in Oakland. Oh.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Been okay with you?
Pardon me?
Has it been all right with you?
Well, it has been all right. The fire, our sky was so orange red, we couldn't even go out today's the first day that we could get out in the garden. I mean, we wear the mask when I walk the little dog, which I couldn't do for a week since she broke her little paw. My granddaughter played with her and she fell out of her arm, broke her paw, so she has a little cast on her, on her leg. So today was the first day I took her out.
Wow.
Well, how do you think your experiences you had after the war and as a child, how do you think those experiences shaped your life? Maybe you didn't know how bad things were until you were older, that possibly your mother shielded you from things.
Right. Well, Mother, we were lucky that we had a garden, even though, well, after the war, there was so much destruction and we didn't have running water in the house anymore because all the water lines were broken. So we were lucky that we had a pump in our garden, pump. And in those days, of course, in those days, you had sponge baths, right? You washed on top and you washed on the bottom because you had to save the water. And we filled the bathtub with water from the pump and used it for cooking. Well, and also after Germany lost the war, we had, later on, that part of Berlin became a French sector, and we had a French doctor occupying our house. Two, actually, Monsieur Marquin, Madame Marquin, and the family. And then upstairs we had a French major too. So we had, the house was occupied, and we only had one room for 5 people and had to share the kitchen.
Oh,
My word.
how long did that last? That sounds terrible.
Right? Well, that lasted, no, I don't know how long that lasted. Good question. It may have lasted to, well, 40, I think maybe 47.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
So a couple of years.
Yes, yes, yes.
Oh,
I know. And my mother was a beautiful pianist. We had a beautiful Steinway and Son concert piano, and she used to play beautiful. And all that was taken away from us, occupied by the French. But
Wow.
we're lucky we were not in the Russian sector. But we had the wall right behind our property, and you could spit across the wall. Where
Wow.
we children used to go to bargain, they bought that little hill down and put the wall up. So you heard the dogs even barking, the German shepherds on the wall.
oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, what happened to the piano?
The piano, well, it was all ruined. Madame Marquin was a very good pianist too, but they had a lot of French bottles and perfumes and parties, and they put it all on the veneer, and it was ruined. So
Oh,
when we moved from Berlin to Lübeck, the piano came with us, the concert piano, and my father finally had it refinished again. But then after my mother closed her eyes, I was in America. No one wanted to have that beautiful concert piano.
Wow.
oh.
Yeah, so it was given away. Yeah. Well, and you know, when I moved to America, I couldn't take very much with me anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Though I did bring a little Volkswagen over, I must say that. Yeah, yeah.
So, what what impact did those times have on your life and the way you raised your children and how you approached life? You've said that you can't
My
wait
father was
to-
not too thrilled because when he came really into my life, I was 16 years old. And then 7 years later, I came to America when I was 23. He did not really have much of my life and wanted me to stay longer. But I was in love and I went to America. He was not too happy about it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Did you ever see them again? Did you go back and visit?
Oh, yes, I did go back. I never went back with my husband. I always went back with the children. So both of my boys have been to Berlin and have been to Lübeck, and we have traveled around. Yeah, we were last year even in Germany too. Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Well, how do you see your life being?
Uh-oh, is he all right?
It's his telephone.
No.
Oh, your
So,
cell phone.
How
Oh,
do
he has a modern equipment.
How do you think your life is different than, say, your grandchildren because of the experiences you had when you were young?
Well, you know what? How different, because they have all that modern equipment nowadays. They don't even have time to talk to you. Um, sure, they come over for a few minutes, but then they're back on their iPhone or on their, they don't have conversations now the way we used to have it with our family. I remember when my father would come home from work, we would all sit around the table and everyone would talk. We all had a chance to talk, not that we all talked at the same time. He once put a recorder on and we all talked crisscross and he played it back to us and said, that's not the way I expect you to talk. Each person has the opportunity to talk. but but no, I cannot have much of a conversation with my grandchildren except for that essay that she wanted to write now about the hero, and that's when I talked about Colonel Howell. So she called me several times and wanted to know about it. So that's very interesting.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and then there was another incident when the Russians came into Berlin and they occupied the house next to us. They even had horses on our property, 3 tanks, and they had a pig in a baby bed, and they made my mother clean the chickens. And she, since it was a hungry time, she used to bring the inner organs, the liver, the stomach, the kidney, and even sometimes eggs in the chicken home, so we kids had something to eat. So in that respect, we were very happy. But what was I going to say? I forgot now my train of thought. You asked me something and I forgot my train of thought.
Well, I was just asking you about how the way you view your life compared to your grandchildren, and how it's hard to talk with them. And you and your father would show you how to speak to each other across the dinner table, and recorded you so that he could say, you speak one at a time.
There goes my phone. Just a second. I want to just hang it up because I don't want to talk. Okay. Sorry. Okay. So you wanted to know how my life was different from my children.
Yes. And your grandchildren.
Well, we had very few toys to play with. Our school system is very different too in Germany compared to America. We used to go to school on Saturdays. And of course, after the war, the schoolhouse was destroyed. And we used to go to school in barracks. We used to go 1 month to school from 8 to 1, and then 1 month from 2 to 6 in the afternoon. And coming home in the darkness and no street lights, that was frightening. And I had had to walk to school 45 minutes and 45 minutes home, and in the darkness and not any lanterns. It was very scary.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So the life in that respect is so different what my grandchildren have nowadays. They go, well, right now they have schooling on their laptops at home, but both of them are going to a private Catholic school because the school system is not very good in Oakland.
Oh. Well, you have 2 grandchildren.
Yeah, 14 and 12 and a half. Yeah, so they're my only grandchildren.
Yeah.
And you have a girl and a boy, or?
No, 2 girls.
2 girls. Oh.
2 girls. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It was their mom who just set up our Zoom conversation.
Oh.
And they live next door to me.
Oh,
The house is
good.
right next door to me. So
Nice.
I go over there every morning. Well, now the dog has a broken paw, but I usually pick up the little dog, a little Chihuahua, and walk with the dog in the morning and keep the dog, feed her. And while the girls have school on the computer, because they have to be ready at 8 o'clock in the morning, not in pajamas, ready, groomed, sitting in front of the laptop.
Oh.
And then I go over around 11 o'clock and I make lunch when they have lunch around 11:30. And sometimes they come over in the afternoon and want to play with the dog or take the dog home. But now for 8 weeks, I will have the dog because of the broken paw. They cannot. How are your teeth? I have a lot of problems with my teeth. Your teeth are all right?
How are your teeth?
Good.
They are.
Your teeth are very good. Thank you.
I have a lot of problems with my teeth, and that I think goes back to for the poor, our wartime, bad time. But you know, when I went to Germany last year, my sister-in-law gave me some old letters that my mother wrote to my father in 1947, 48, 49, and
Wow.
even the children, even the letters that I wrote, and she saved them and she gave them to me. So it's very interesting to read these letters.
Oh, yeah.
Hard times we had, and when you could get more, even after the blockade, you could get more in northern Germany than you did in Berlin, because everything was very expensive in Berlin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I'll
wonderful.
never
to have
forget
those.
when we wanted, since father was available to get some bacon, he would send some bacon from northern Germany to Berlin. And by the time we got it, it was full of maggots. So mother would put it in a pail and she let all the maggots come out, and then she fried it. And we kids enjoyed it. It was a delicacy. So you tell your grandchildren and they see a little worm in an apple or in a plum, oh, they won't even touch it. The whole plum is being thrown away.
That
Wow.
is true.
Different
That's
time.
quite a
I
story.
can see an apple lying on the ground with worms. I cut around it and I make applesauce or apple cobbler out of it.
Yeah.
Nothing goes to waste in my household.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Well, what message would you like to share with Gail Halverson for his 100th birthday?
Well, I wish you lots of good health. My God, you were such handsome, young-looking man at 18 when you started that airlift. 18 you were, right?
Yeah,
Well,
right.
he was 28.
Oh, he was 28. 28, but
Well,
such
27.
handsome young man.
And almost 28.
Yeah.
And you don't really show your age. No.
Well, thank
I
you.
hope my mother turned out 98 and a half. She
Uh-huh.
went through World War I and World War II.
My
Oh,
word.
I wish you
Mm.
many, many, many more happy, healthy years. And
Yeah.
I know that Krista and Roswitha are going to come to celebrate with you.
Yeah,
yes,
good.
that's right.
Roswitha Berry,
Uh-huh.
because they told me already their plans.
Yeah.
They had hoped to talk me into it too, but I have to babysit the dog because my daughter-in-law and son go still to work, and I cannot. The dog needs special care.
I
Yes.
understand. Yeah. Well, it's
So
good to talk to
your
you.
dad lives with you now, or?
Yes, he's been here for a couple of months. He has a place at a assisted living place, but because everything was
Over
being
the corona.
quarantined, so we brought him here to our home so he could be around people and things.
Oh, you're so lucky to have your daughter take you home.
Oh, I am. I know how lucky that is every day. You're so
Yeah.
sweetheart. Yeah.
It's good because we can have discussions like this with people like you, and
Right, he cannot have that at the home. That's so true.
No.
Yeah,
So good.
yeah.
So it's wonderful to meet you, and thank you.
Well,
for
wonderful
sharing.
talking to you too. I talked to you before, and of course, I have seen so many wonderful documentaries and films. And Roswitha, whatever you send her, she sends to our group because I belong to the blockade group, and so I'm very well informed.
Good. Good.
Even when my brother sees you in Germany, he sends it to me in Germany.
My word.
From Germany, yeah.
So on both continents, you have information coming in.
You have information coming in now?
Well, you do on both continents.
Oh yeah, right. But all I have left is my brother. Yeah, even
Good.
my only cousin died. And her husband just died a few weeks ago too. So all I have left is one brother.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, we went to see him last year. He lives near Bad Homburg, not far from Frankfurt.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
wonderful that you can live next door to your son,
Yes.
your grandchildren.
Yes. And my other son lives in Idaho. He moved away from California because he said too many problems in California. And it's sad when you see pictures from San Francisco. We have so many homeless people. It's terrible.
Yeah. My gosh.
Well,
Yeah.
well, we appreciate your sharing your experiences, and we wish you all the best. And
Well,
thank
thank
you.
you. Thank you. And you know, we lived of chickens and rabbits, and I had a goose for a pet. And we used to pick dandelion because we didn't really have chicken food. We always had some weeds for the chickens. Mother brought them home in a little box, tiny little chickens. and put the heating lamp over it in a class, and then they grew. 6 of them turned out to be roosters, 6 of them chickens. But it was so sad. You had named each chicken, same thing with the rabbits, and then they ended up in the cook pot, and I couldn't eat my chicken.
You sweetheart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I even had a goat. I grew up on goat's milk. Today, I wouldn't even touch goat's milk. I don't like it.
Oh, you sunshine.
But you ate it anyway when you were little. You drank it anyway.
Yeah, well, when you're little, you had no choice.
Yeah, that's right.
Either you eat it or drink it or you die, right? You starve to death. But anyhow, it was wonderful, wonderful what the Americans did and after the war to help the Berliners to stay alive.
Good.
Yes, because it was a really very bad time for
Yeah, it's tough.
all of us. Yeah.
Barbara, what is your maiden name?
It's Kluge.
K-L-U?
No, K-L-U-G-E, Barbara Kluge.
Okay, no U, no umlaut. Just,
No umlaut, Kluge.
okay.
I was always called in school die kluge Barbara, the clever Barbara.
Yes, that's a good name.
Clever is the translation for Kluge.
Yes, yes, that's right. That's a positive influence on your life, just your name in itself.
Right. Yeah. So I was surprised. Even my granddaughter, she looked at some of my papers and she said, "Who's Kluge?" And I said, "That's my maiden name."
That's good.
Yeah, all of a sudden, 14, she is finally getting interested in my life. Yeah.
She'll get more interested as she gets older.
Oh, I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will. You know, I saw something on the computer today a friend sent me, and it was shocking. College students, they showed the whole world, and they were supposed to point at certain countries. They didn't even know where these countries were.
Oh, my word.
American college students. That
Terrible.
was shocking.
Terrible.
Yeah, no, our school system is not very good here. And I always say to my grandchildren, you can always learn from the older people and the experience too, but maybe the day will come.
I'm sure.
I think the day
Before they go off to college, right?
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can get out a map and show them where you lived in Germany.
Oh yeah, that they know because we have been to Frohnau. Are you familiar with Frohnau?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a friend there. Did you know the Zipka family? The Zipka, he was a doctor.
Who was that?
Zipka was his name, the last name.
Oh,
They lived in Frohnau.
Oh, in Frohnau.
Yeah. Cierpka, Zipka.
Zipka.
Yeah, I knew them, and when my dad was commander in Tempelhof, 1970 to 74, I was studying at the Hochschule für Musik in Berlin.
Oh, the Hochschule für Musik.
Klavier. And meine Freundin war Christiane Zierpka in Frohnau. Ihr Vater war Arzt dort.
Oh, interessant.
Yeah.
Ah.
But you didn't know Zierpka?
No.
Okay.
Oh,
We know where Frohnau is. We've been there many times, right by the wall.
So then you're familiar too with the Frohnau, with the Poloplatz and the Polo Hotel.
Oh.
That's where they had all the equipment in the upstairs room for the flights that were coming into Frohnau into Tempelhof.
Oh.
And then, of course, later on they built the airport in Tegel.
Yeah.
The French did that
Yeah.
in Tegel. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Huh.
Oh, my word.
Yeah. No, looking back, despite the war and the blockade, I lived a good life, I think. I did.
Good. Good.
Yeah. Despite the war, I did a good life, lived a
I
good
think
life.
you had a good mother and
Oh, I had a wonderful mother.
support that helped you get through those
Very
times.
supportive and a wonderful grandmother. Yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I hope we get to meet you someday in person and get to talk with you.
Say that again.
Hopefully we get to meet you in person again someday.
Yes, I hope so too, before we are too old, right?
That's right. And please tell your daughter-in-law thank you so much, and
I will let her know, yeah.
tell your granddaughters that they need to listen to you.
Yes, yes, very true. Yeah. But anyhow, happy birthday and stay well. No coronavirus.
Thank you very much for your greeting.
And
So
the same.
Been an
wear
honor.
your little mask.
Yeah, it's good to talk
Yeah,
to you.
yeah, yeah.
Well,
Okay,
you have a beautiful evening. Einen schönen Abend wünschen wir Ihnen.
Dankeschön. Du sprichst fließend Deutsch, das ist wunderbar. Ich habe mit meinen Enkelkindern auch angefangen auf der deutschen Schule, denn wir haben hier nur 3 Blocks von meinem Haus das deutsche Altersheim. Und da haben wir die deutsche Schule und da habe ich die Kinder zur Schule geschickt am Sonnabend. Aber die waren nicht sehr interessiert, denn die Mutter ist aus Peru und sie sprechen fließend Spanisch mit der Mutter.
Aha.
Aber in Kalifornien kann man gut Spanisch gebrauchen.
Ja, ja, das
Ja.
stimmt genau.
Obwohl ich mir wünsche, dass sie das Deutsche wieder nochmal anfangen, Deutsch zu lernen. Ich weiß, die Gabriela, jeden Tag sagt sie, Oma, gib mir ein neues Wort. Und dann male ich ein Bild oder gebe ihr irgendwas, wie zum Beispiel die Schildkröte, habe ich ihr gegeben. So, und nächstes Mal, wenn ich sie sehe, frage ich sie, das letzte Wort, das die Oma gegeben hat, wie hieß das? The
Ja.
turtle, die Schildkröte.
Aha. Ja, Schritt für Schritt, ja.
Schritt für Schritt, vielleicht, ja. Ja,
Well,
du weißt.
have a wonderful evening and
You do too, and it was so nice talking to you and get
So
to meet you,
nice.
Denise.
yeah.
And stay well, Colonel.
I was pleased to
Okay.
participate with you tonight.
Yeah.
Okay.
For you, it's gute Nacht, guten Abend. You are an hour ahead of our time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice talking to you. I
Bye-bye.
have to show you my doggy before you go.
Oh,
Oh, come on.
Oh, what a cute
look.
dog.
Oh.
Oh, my word.
What kind of dog is that?
What's that?
What kind of dog is that?
It's a Chihuahua mix,
Oh,
but
very.
she is a real sweetheart.
Uh-huh.
My granddaughter picked her up and she dropped and broke her paw.
Oh,
So
Yeah.
it's in a splint.
yeah.
Oh, she's a
Well,
sweetheart.
that's a nice dog. An honor to
Okay,
talk to you.
bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, sunshine.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.